Okay, can we all rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart, absent. Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Councilman Lord.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notations, the exits in the front and the rear. Electronic device, please put it on vibrate. We're going to open a meeting this evening with a public informational meeting. There'll be a Welfare Road culvert replacement. It's up by Sherwood Hill in the town of Southeast. HVA be represented this evening by Jack Gorton. Would you like to come up to the mic and start let them make their presentation first, and then we'll take all questions thereafter after the presentation.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for having us. Thank you to the board, and thanks everybody for coming out tonight. We're here to discuss the Welfare Road culvert replacement near the intersection of Sherwood Hill Road, as the supervisor alluded to. This is a town-sponsored project run by the town supervisor, the town highway superintendent, Michael Bruin, and the town engineer, Tom Fenton. We, HVA engineers, were selected to design this project and get it through the state funding process. I'm Jack Orton. I'll be the project manager. I'm joined here tonight with Lou Bach, the main designer, Dan Pollock, and Mia Nadasky, who is one of the owners of the company. Here's just an agenda for tonight. I'm going to give a little introduction of why we're here. Then I'm going to hand it over to Lou, who's going to get into the more technical aspects of the project and talk about the design. And then I'll wrap it up with a little bit about the funding and the schedule before we open the floor for questions. This is a public presentation. It's not a public hearing. There isn't a stenographer here. Any comments, they're not technically on the record. We're really here tonight for you guys. We want to get your input on the project, make sure everybody is aware of what's going on and feels comfortable with everything. We will open the floor for questions. We'll do our best to answer whatever anybody has to ask, and afterwards we'll step out in the hallway, and if anybody has any individual questions that they don't want to ask in front of the entire board, we're more than happy to discuss outside. We also have some comment sheets up front here and a sign-in sheet. I do encourage everybody to make your comments written if you have something to say. That way we make sure it gets incorporated into the final report, which will be a public document. If you ask questions, we'll answer them here, but they may not make it into the report. And we do ask that everybody sign in as well, so we have a record of who attended. And then I'm going to hand it over to Lou, who's going to talk a little bit about the project itself.
Thanks, Jack. So as Jack mentioned, the project is on Welfare Road at the intersection of Sherwood Hill Road. It's just south of Putnam Lake, near the Connecticut line. So the objectives of the project. Right now there's an existing 5-foot diameter culvert under the road. It is in deteriorating condition. The bottom right is a picture of the culvert today. Well, not today, but a couple months ago. So the goal of the project is to install a new precast concrete box culvert, similar to the one on the top right of the screen. That's not the exact culvert you're going to see, but it is very, very similar. As part of the culvert replacement, we're looking to do a little bit of changes to the intersection there. We're going to be shifting Welfare Road slightly to the south to create more of a T intersection with Welfare Road. Right now, Sherwood Hill is the stop condition. It's a very steep decline coming down that hill. There have been accidents reported that we've researched for cars sliding down that hill in the snow. So in talking with the highway superintendent, the goal of the project is to make Welfare Road the stop condition. It's a lower traffic volume. It makes more sense to bring that intersection in, tee it up, make it more safe for vehicles there. So this is a rendering. It's exactly the same as the big board over there of what the proposed condition will most likely look like. You can see the slight shift of the intersection, more of a T intersection, the stop condition on Welfare Road. That gray rectangle is a rough sketch of the proposed culvert. It's right next to the existing one, just slightly shifted over. So now for construction impacts. The town is performing this work with their forces. It's anticipated that the road will be closed at the intersection there for about 1 month. That is anticipated to begin in July. Pending DOT review times and getting through permits, that is our anticipation. Traffic will be detoured around the site, and because we're closing the road, that's going to allow for a huge savings in time and cost on the overall project. After the closure is done and the culvert is replaced, there's going to be another approximately 1 month of incidental construction on the roadway, final touch-up items, final paving, sign, striping, which, like I said, is another month approximately. So now for the detour. This is really the only feasible detour around the site. It's roughly 5 to 7 minutes of travel time. It's going to be closed at the intersection of Sherwood Hill, so traffic will be detoured to Sherwood Hill to Gage Road, Doansburg to Fairfield, and then that gets you to the north side of Welfare Road. The detour will be fully signed. With the construction being when it is in July, school's not in session, there's vacations, there's not as much traffic through the area. So it's very critical to get through this process and have that start in July. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Jack. Just going to go over some funding.
So about this time last year, the town actually competed for and won a state grant to construct this project. They were awarded a little over $300,000 for construction. So, great job, town, on getting that money. This project, as I said, is 100% state funded. The town is not responsible for anything unless it comes in over budget, which we do not anticipate happening. But with these state funds do come some strings. We have to follow a very rigid state process that DOT oversees. We have a strict environmental process that we must go through, and we submit various reports to the state at different times. So and with that said, we are a good way into this process. We have already submitted a draft design approval document to the state, and after this meeting, we'll incorporate any comments and make any changes as needed, and we will submit our final report for approval. After we get design approval, we will spend this spring detailing all the construction plans out, and we hope to be out in the field building this summer. As Lou said, our main goal is to get this built during the summer when school's not in session. It will simplify bus routing and any kind of concerns the school district may have. So that's all we had prepared tonight. Thank you guys for coming out again. Thanks for having us, and we're more than happy to answer any questions.
Would you come up to the mic and ask your questions so everyone can hear it, sir? State your name for the record, too,
Sure.
please.
Santo Borsellino, 5 Welfare Road. I'm actually the house that's right adjacent to this project, so I have a couple of questions. First, to the board, thank you for having this hearing. Will there be a public hearing? Is it necessary for this type of project, or is this just something that gets approved by the state and we sort of move forward as we?
Is there a public hearing at this point? I don't believe so.
No, only if there's right-of-way.
I'm sorry?
Only if there's right-of-way takings.
Okay. So my next questions will be directed to you. That section of the road that's going to be no longer, I guess there's a faded with a stop sign arrow, sort of. What happens to that area? Is that just left blacktop? Is that ground up, planted grass? What will be there? Grass, okay. All right, second question for me is regarding runoff. As this culvert certainly currently sits, the pavement basically tracks the water from the road down into that water flow. So is there going to be any kind of curbing that will sort of bypass any road runoff by that, just from road pollutants, salt, et cetera, going into that water? There's a lot of sediment that goes into that section there. So is that part of any plan, or is it going to sort of exist as it is?
I mean, so for drainage, we're going to, more or less, it's going to be the way it is. Down Sherwood Hill, there is existing curbing to close drainage systems. That curbing is going to be replaced, the drainage structure is replaced. As far as Welfare Road, we're looking at swales on the side of the road, stone-lined swales to slow the water down, hopefully collect some sediment. I mean, it's not going to be too much different than it is now? I mean, do you have, I mean, what's your biggest concern?
Well, now there's no curbing. The water just flows, whatever water, and matter of fact, it slopes down toward the side of that road, so there's nothing to stop stormwater, salt, whatever impurities that are in the road to just go into that. So a curb, to me, wouldn't be, you wouldn't need to be that much, more technical involvement in that. So if that's possible and it doesn't create puddling or icing elsewhere, which is obviously what we don't want, I'm assuming there's a stop sign from that's going to go there?
Yes.
I'm very happy to see that because I can't tell you how many times I've almost been hit coming out of my own driveway from the speed with which cars come from Welfare Road down to that intersection. So hopefully that stop sign can curb that. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Sir, when you said your house, was it on Welfare Road?
Yes, it's the first house you see, right? No, other one.
This one?
Yep, right there. Oh, one
Oh,
more
okay.
question. Will you need to access any portion of my property to do this project, or is just, you're just
No,
adjacent to it, you don't
We're
really need
adjacent
to?
to it, we're gonna remove the old culvert, and any new work is actually further away from your house, we're following the road slightly away.
Okay, and you don't see any need to, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize the mic, won't be any need to take any trees that are currently there, everything that's there should stay there? Okay, appreciate your time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just so the public knows, we notified within 500 feet, but we went out even further. We notified everyone on Welfare Road to the Patterson line. We also notified the town of Patterson that this was going to be taking place, and we're keeping them in the loop so they were aware of, when this road will be closed, because it'll affect that side of town as well. So we almost doubled the area that had to be notified to make sure everyone is aware the best we can. There'll be signage, of course, later on, and move on from there. Anyone else comment? Would you come up to mic, sir?
There'll be another stop sign, right? The
No,
other
just,
direction.
there's only going to be one stop sign now, right?
Yes.
And that's the one coming from Welfare on to Sherwood,
You can stop at the end of Welfare.
which is,
But coming south on Welfare, there's not going to be?
wait, here's Welfare, there's Welfare, there's the stop sign, that's Welfare, and this is Sherwood Hill here, going toward Green Chimney. One stop sign. Okay, sir, go ahead.
All right, hi. Sean McDermott, I'm on Shaylin Lane, which is just up the road from there. My question concerning this traffic pattern now that you're gonna have, once it's completed, it says here on your paper, you're gonna have 2 lanes that are 13, each lane is 13 feet. So it's 26, where the culvert is gonna be 26 feet across.
Correct.
What is it currently now?
21.
So it's less, so it's gonna be wider there. And where the stop sign is, and Sherwood Road, are we widening that road as well? So when cars are coming around, where the cars are stopped, is that, it looks like it in this picture, on opposite the stop sign, where you have the curves, that's gonna be wider as well going in? Because my concern is coming onto Welfare off of Sherwood, 26, that's nice that it's wider. And then we're gonna come back up into a narrow road as it continues back to, the rest of the road is back down to 20, 21 feet there.
Correct, yep. The town only got funding really for the culvert, the intersection's an improvement, that's as far as we can really go with the money that they have.
Right, so, and there'll be definitely no stop sign coming with the traffic coming south down on Sherwood Hill Road. That's gonna be the way it is, just
Right
no stop
now,
sign
yes,
on.
Right.
now,
Right now, there's a stop sign here. Right now, there is one here, but that's going to be
Yes.
removed, and the only one will now be right there coming off of Welfare Road.
Right, yeah, my concern is just how wide it is,
Well,
that road coming around.
Yeah,
'cause
right in
like
that
we do
area.
say, there is a bit of a ice problem in the wintertime with the traffic coming down that hill. So even if there's no stop sign now, with cars coming down that hill, even stopping there, I just want to know how wide that road's gonna be. If we're sitting at a stop sign and the car's coming down that hill with no brakes, you know what I'm saying? Is it back far enough that, there's not gonna be an issue there?
yeah, and we can take a look at that, we can always pull that stop bar and the stop sign back a little bit, back up on Welfare to make sure that anybody that does go straight through wouldn't be hit.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? If you have any additional,
Yeah, I'm so sorry. One
Okay.
or two more questions. came up.
come up if you would, please, just so we can hear you.
I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
He did a good job. So you're widening by 6 feet. Does that mean you're encroaching on any of the properties? Basically on my property, will you be coming in
No,
3 feet?
we're going further to the south. The town actually owns a big triangle
Mhm.
parcel there.
Okay.
If you go out there now, you'll see there's a
Yep.
utility pole out there. They own that entire triangle, so we're gonna stay fully within the town's right away.
Okay, and my next concern with regards to that stop sign where it is, if people are coming down that hill, and I hear cars screeching all the time, and remember, I'm right there, so, if cars are coming from Gage, and that's a left turn, and there's a lot of cars that make that left turn onto Welfare and move up, if cars are coming down that hill, I don't think in bad conditions, I'm not certain you want to put a stop sign on the other side, but I'm a little concerned in bad conditions that cars are coming down at a higher speed off of Sherwood, coming down the hill through that intersection. I'm just wondering if there's any study done in that regard.
We can certainly take a look at that. I think by teeing the intersection up more, right now people, they really do drive pretty fast around that curve, especially making the left up on Welfare. By teeing the intersection up, we're changing that approach pretty significantly. You're gonna have to basically come to a stop before you make the left. So you should be looking up the hill to see if anybody's coming down. And I think that'll help with the situation a lot.
Sightlines aren't great at that intersection.
Mhm.
That's the main concern.
Okay, we'll take a hard look.
Taking that left turn is difficult, even with the stop sign there. The sightlines aren't great.
Sure, okay. We'll take a hard look at all of that.
Anyone else? Okay.
All
Thank you
right,
for coming this
thanks
evening.
again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We're just gonna let them break down for a second before we continue.
Right now, Sherwood Hill they don't stop at the bottom
They
of
do.
Sherwood Hill.
Yes, they do. They do now.
Now they won't have to.
No, that's what's proposed. Thank you for hooking me back up. You wouldn't have got out in the door.
So what happens is then you go make a left, and then what happens is Gage picks up. That's when you go make the left. Gage then takes over. Right, Gage takes over. Yeah. So when they have that,
And then you bear the right to go to Green Chimneys.
right, that's Gage though.
Is that still there? Yes.
Sure. That's the Gage. Because what happens is Gage is here. So you like this, you make the left, here's Sherwood, right? And then it intersects with Gage, and then you go like this. Right. Over here it turns into Gage, so that's what's confusing me, because this, how high that they had Sherwood go. And the corner house never looked that fucking big to me. Right? Right? Didn't it look like that huge? Yeah, I'm thinking that house that was never sold up the street of Gage. Imagine, it's right, it's on the hill.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next portion. It's going to be a public hearing. Chapter 103, peddling and soliciting, Article,
You have to open the public hearing.
well, we didn't do it yet.
Okay.
I'm leading into it.
No, okay, good.
Just want to make sure.
Okay, Article 2, food trucks. I will make a motion to open the public hearing and read the notice into the public hearing.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Pursuant to General Municipal Home Rule, to consider a proposed local law which, if adopted, would amend Chapter 103 of the Town Code entitled Peddling and Soliciting, Section 103-5C, to provide holders of a valid license issued pursuant to Section 32 of the General Business Law of the State of New York will not be required to obtain written permission to vend within state, county, or other municipal thoroughfares within the town of Southeast. Copies of the proposed local law can be obtained with the town clerk at the town hall during normal business hours. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone that wish to make comment on this proposed local law change, please come up to the mic, state your name, and give us your concerns.
Seeing none, I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we go into a work session, discussion, Chapter 134-3E, 134-5, vehicles off-road. Make a motion to open the work session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I gotta get one document.
Do you have it?
No,
Do you have it?
I do.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find. Did I do it at the end? Let me take a 1 minute. Where did my folder go?
Not there? That's
No, it's only one folder. My folder. Hey, Lori, where'd the folder go? We were talking. I do have it. Okay. We received an inquiry by a gentleman by the name of Mr. Skolaski, who lives off of Milltown Road onto the road. I'm trying to find his actual letter. Bottom line, he questioned the local law, which basically says that if you use and operate a off-road vehicle within 100 feet of a property line, that is basically illegal. They could be fined and possibly sent to jail for a period of time, a week or so. It makes sense. So what I asked the building department to provide us with is something at least to work with to discuss this evening. Whose phone is it? Okay. So what the recommendation change is going to be is, on private property within 100 feet of a property owned by another, exemption, it's going to be an exemption, where the recreational motor vehicle is being clearly utilized for the maintenance of a property. In other words, you can snow plow, garden, and lawn maintenance. Now, this particular gentleman's property, so basically, this here is the gentleman's driveway that goes here to behind his house. This here is another person's property. He's like within 1 foot of it. He's within 1 foot of this person's property as well. So basically what this gentleman in this house does, and many homes in town, they work on their properties and things that, the way it's written now, they would not be able to use a vehicle, which has been the law forever. It's really never been brought to an issue until just recently. So basically, the bottom line is what's going to happen here is this gentleman or anyone that lives within 100 feet, and especially where I live up what they call the tree streets in Brewster, and people, maintain their lawns, they have four-wheelers, they plow their driveways with them. So that aspect, if we make that slight change, they would be allowed to do that in their property, and that's the purpose of this. Anyone from the town board have any questions about that?
No,
Speaking to Mike so everyone can hear you.
could you read the proposal?
The proposal? Now, this is just a proposal. It can be changed in any way, and we'll
So
take
the
public.
proposal is E.
The proposal is E. On private property within 100 feet of property owned by another, exemption, it'll be in the exemption, where the recreational motor vehicle is being clearly utilized for the maintenance of the property, snow plowing, gardening, and lawn maintenance. In other words, the kids can't go out there and drag race and things of that nature, but as long as they're working on the property for maintenance, it would be covered. And that's for discussion.
That sounds fairly reasonable.
I'm sorry?
He said it sounds fairly reasonable. Anyone from the public wish to make comment on that? Come up to the mic, sir, and state your name.
Good evening. My name is Andres Gill. I'm a town resident. Live at, you need my address? 117 North Brewster Road. I think that the proposal is actually very reasonable. It's just the language of the proposal. Because if we're saying that it's clearly identifiable to doing something like this, I think maybe the language needs to be, it's the intent or the intention of the individual to use this equipment for this purpose. Because if we say clearly we're pushing that burden on the person who's using the equipment for their own purpose, rather than if it's their intent, we're pushing the burden on the state to say the state then would have to prove that it wasn't their intention to do it. So I think the language just needs to be cleared up a little bit.
Will, do you have any you think this should be clarified better?
Oh, I certainly do. I had nothing to do with this.
Oh, no? Okay, so you're gonna
Okay,
make,
so the suggestion
you're
is,
gonna
you believe that,
Well, I mean, it's making a vague provision even more vague. I think what Mr. Gill is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Mr. Stevens.
I mean, and the other thing that I would point out is that the way that law reads now, if somebody were to ride a off-road vehicle down their driveway and it's within 100 feet of another person's property, it's technically in violation. And they may not be using that for maintenance purposes. They might just be enjoying a ride up and down their driveway. But it would technically, if it's within 100 feet of an adjoining property, it would be still in violation of the law, which I don't think that was its intent.
so what would the suggestion be as far as a clarification of the language?
No, I really haven't really given it much thought at this point.
now, some four-wheelers that people have, I mean, I live in a neighborhood and there's probably 8 or 9 of them. One person, created a small little track, but, they do the maintenance on their lawns and things of that nature. But a few of them, bring them upstate and they actually have license plates on the four-wheelers. So they would be able to go from the way it reads, they couldn't, but if they have to get to a main road to drive it, okay, like I live only a few feet, not from a main road, but from a town road, and they're licensed and it's plated, they'd be allowed to drive. So I'm not sure if that clarifies it there as well.
Well, Supervisor Hay, I think the intention of the statute is, to prevent one of your neighbors from having like a 2-cycle dirt bike, revving it super loud and driving you crazy while you're trying to enjoy the peacefulness of Putnam County.
Okay,
I think that's the intention of the statute. I mean, this situation right here, where you have a person who might want to snowplow their driveway or do some garden work, I mean, what's the difference between having a four-wheeler that you would pull a trailer with and a lawn tractor that you would pull a trailer with? I think, looking at the statute, as Mr. Stevens said, regardless of what you're doing, if you're within 100 feet of someone's property, you're in violation of the law, and you could be brought up on a summons. So I think the exception, and the way that the exception is written by the residents who submitted the exception, puts the onus, when you're using a vague term and ambiguous terms like clearly, there needs to be an intention, or there needs to be some type of intent. If we're talking about a summons, we're really looking towards like what is the mens rea of the person who's committing that offense. If we're going to charge somebody with an offense, and I really think that the law needs to be clear so that the residents of the community are aware that if you are driving something in this area and it's your intention to just ride a dirt bike up and down your road, right, then you're in violation of the statute. But if it's your intention and it's demonstrated by the act, by the totality of circumstances surrounding the act, then it's that you're doing gardening, you're pulling a trailer, then I think that that's, you know, is a lawful, should be recommended as a lawful exemption to that statute, because a person's clearly just trying to take care of their property and improve their property. But I believe that the intent the intent of the statute should be to, preserve the peacefulness of the community.
But you do think there should be an exemption?
I do think there
To
should be.
clarify it in,
But it needs to be clarified. I mean,
Okay.
I'm a lawyer.
I'm
Ms.
not.
Hudak's a lawyer, Mr. Stevens is a lawyer, and, I mean, I could just see this coming up as an issue in the future and having it come to the town attorney and someone filing a summons or a complaint or a harassment or seeking something from this, that it could cause a second, third order effects. And I'm a military officer also, and so second, third order effects are something we look at, and I could see the second, third order effects of this as the person who lives in that house right there, when the person is working up and down their driveway, if they don't like them, then they could file a complaint and say, hey, this person is in violation of the statute, and now they need to have a cease and desist order from doing this, and it could just cause a lot of conflict. So my recommendation, or my concern as a citizen of this community, is just that the statute that you plan to adopt, or if you do adopt it as a town board, that is clearly stated, the language is clear, so that anyone living within the community is on notice of what is lawful and what is not lawful.
okay, before you go this evening, because this is just the first evening it's been brought up, so it's gonna come back to our next meeting, which will be held on the 8th. And I don't know if you'll be able to attend that, but before you go, if you can just give me your name, phone number, and your email address, whatever's proposed, I'll send it to you as well, in case you don't see it beforehand.
Okay,
that be
absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, there you go.
I think the idea is, what we want to do is to carve out an exception. Just, I mean, it seems like it shouldn't be too difficult, carving out an exception within that 100 feet of a property line for snow blowing and garden maintenance only, et cetera, whatever it was that you said, correct, Tony?
Yes.
That's what you want to do. So within that 100 feet, that someone would be able to use what's been defined as a recreational motor vehicle within that 100 feet. That's what it comes down to. Correct?
I believe.
Yep. Okay. So recreational vehicles, we have the definition: snowmobiles, motorcycles, mini bikes, trail bikes, motorbikes, all-terrain vehicles and other motorized 2- and 3-wheel vehicles and similar vehicles and contrivances designed for operation primarily on off-highway trails. That seems fairly not difficult, if that's what we want to do.
Willis, is this something you can draft up, or should we be asking Ashley for,
I believe was this the language provided by the building department?
I think so, yeah, I think that was by Mike. I mean, so obviously, if you can draft something, or should we just reach out to Ashley and ask, from
I think Will, I certainly think Will can do
just
it,
what, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Please.
Dennis Santucci, 5 Shady Lane, Brewster, New York. I happen to be that house next door to that driveway. And as the town is well aware, there's been a 4-year battle on the neighbor to the right of me, if you're looking at that picture, who has an illegal racetrack. And we've been litigating with the town for 4 years now. We've just went to the ZBA and got a ruling to enforce the 100-foot riding within the 100-foot rule. It seems very weird that the town is coming up with this new proposal when we just had the ZBA ruling last month. As far as putting a snowplow on your quad or going around gardening, it's the building inspector was clear when we were fighting with the ZBA that he wasn't going to enforce the 100-foot rule. So therefore, the building inspector can, be, at his discretion, say, well, this guy is snow plowing or this guy is doing gardening. Don't enforce the rule. I mean, that's what he put right in writing, that he wasn't going to do, and we had to go to the ZBA and fight that point. I think it's a bad situation what you guys are putting yourself up against here. You do realize there's a 1983 litigation with the federal courts right now, some of it based on this particular point in this law. I think if the town wants to investigate an exemption of the riding within 100 feet of the property line rule, I think it should wait till the 1983 action is done, the federal litigation is done, and then possibly talk about putting a snowplow on your four-wheeler and cleaning your driveway. Half the time when there is a snow event, it falls under an emergency situation, so if you have a plow on your quad, probably wouldn't be a problem. It's when the person is driving up and down and up and down, it's an issue. I think that's all I have to say.
If I could ask one question, Mr. Centich, you have an ATV, don't you? Do you have an ATV?
That's irrelevant.
No, I'm just
Mr.
asking you a
Stevens,
question.
I'm not answering that question,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
asked you a question, that you have an ATV, do you drive it on your driveway?
Mr. Stevens, whatever I have, I don't have is not part for discussion this
Well, I'm
evening.
just trying to point
It
out.
doesn't
that-
matter, it's
that
irrelevant,
this-
sir.
That whatever they're amending is going to help you as well as helps anybody else. If they have
I
to,
have
if
an
they have to
adequate piece
enforce.
of land, if I would like to ride my ATV on my property, I have over 100 feet areas on my property to ride it. Other people do not, that's why the laws are,
But-
you know, this law is
I'm asking you a
duplicated with
question.
West Seneca, it's duplicated with a lot of other municipalities, and it was created by a joint effort with a lot of municipalities. I'm not an attorney, I'm sorry, I don't speak as well as some of the other people here, but that's fine. But, Mr. Stevens, if I have an SUV, I have ample land to ride it on. If someone doesn't, they can be very much welcome to go buy a bigger piece of property.
My point is this, Mr. Santucci, the way the law is written right now, if you were to drive your ATV down your driveway, if it's within 100 feet of your property line, you're in violation. That's what they're trying to fix here.
Then the town should give whoever's doing that a violation.
So if you drive your ATV down your driveway?
Mr.
And if-
Stevens, I told you, it's irrelevant if I have an
it's not
ATV or
irrelevant.
not.
Well,
I do
let's
not,
make it generic.
town-
Make-
I'm trying to make it
the
as
question
generic as possible, Mr.
Okay.
Hay.
don't twist the situation here, sir.
I'm not twisting anything.
Yes, you are.
I'm
Yes, you are.
asking a simple question.
Yes, you
And I'm
are.
trying to explain to you why this board is trying to address this, because it's going to help you as well. It's going to help anybody else that wants to use an ATV on their private property.
In a specific way that for gardening, landscaping, or snow removal. It's not just driving up and down, unless you're trying to trample down dirt.
I feel the town
right
should
now,
address this situation after the federal litigation is done against the town of Southeast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can see his point, but I don't know, I can see Mr. Santucci's point, but and since the town has not ever really enforced it, could we put a moratorium on the use of that?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know if the town has never enforced it, because it's not something that I think,
People have been issued violations for operating within 100 feet of
They-
another person's property, yes.
Okay. I'm just,
There's not a need, I
is the
mean,
town in any jeopardy if we initiate a law or institute a law like this while we're in litigation
well,
on?
first of all, the law is basically already in place. We just want people to know that, I mean, people are snow plowing their driveways now. Some people use ATVs. Some people want to take a motorbike upstate New York and in their driveway to get from their garage where they keep their motorbike
No, I
to
understand.
the whatever, they're within whatever, can they do that?
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering if we don't take any action, we leave it as is, but we don't enforce. If we put a moratorium on enforcement of the law as it stands now until litigation is settled that the town is involved with.
Most times, common sense prevails.
Okay.
So, again, no matter, we can begin to do it. If it's recommended, we not do it until whatever litigation's resolved. It is what it is.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Good?
Mike Bruin. I see a couple of inconsistencies in this law here, and one being, it says no person shall operate recreational motor vehicles before the hour of 9 a.m. or after 7 p.m. prevailing time, or sunset, whichever occurs first, shall first occur. And that in itself far too restrictive. I think it should be removed probably in its entirety. I don't know if there's any snowmobilers here, but we have some very large tracts of land in our township. Some of probably the best times of day to snowmobile is during the nighttime hours. And I don't believe that a time restriction should be imposed at all. I also feel that there's no exemption in here for ag districts. The gentleman up here before brought up a valid point that I believe about the 100-foot property line. I personally use what would be considered an ATV to do repairs to my fences. I shouldn't have to park that vehicle 100 feet from the fence and take my tools over to repair the fence. That restriction is far too restrictive. I think it should be removed in its entirety, whether you ride 1 foot from the property line or 100 feet from the property line. Shouldn't have any bearing on your usage. If you're on your property or on properties that are you have written permission to be on, which is another part of this same law. If you have written permission to be on anyone else's property, I believe that the 100-foot restriction is shows no purpose whatsoever. If you're making noises, there's contingencies in there for certain noise during certain hours. That's all covered.
Will, this is currently, this is the current Southeast Code that I'm looking at,
It's been
correct?
on the books since 1988. I believe it was originally enacted as when the town codified all their outstanding ordinances. It was added in. I can't find any history for it as to what was the impetus for it. My understanding was that it was meant to regulate the use or abuse of other people's land by those using motorbikes, especially down on Fields Lane, where it was rampant for many, many years. People would come from miles around and ride their bikes on private property without permission, and the owners of the property were absentee owners, and the neighbors would get concerned, and that law went into effect. Whether it had any effect on stopping what was going on in Fields Lane is, I guess, anybody's guess, but I know that has abated dramatically, probably since a lot of that land has now been developed. But that was my understanding as to why the legislation was originally adopted, but it is on the books, and it's been on since, according to the legislative history, 1988.
And just one point about the selective enforcement that would occur if the building inspector decided for any reason he wanted to issue a summons, or any code enforcer for that point. It shouldn't, I don't think that it should be in here at all, because to give one person a ticket for going within the 100-foot restriction and not another, to say that we're not going to, we write laws that we don't enforce, I think is a little bit ridiculous.
Okay,
The one thing that strikes me is, once again, this is a law that's, or a code provision that's been on the books since 1988, at least that's what it says, 6/16/1988. We haven't modified it, or the town hasn't modified it since.
No, that's not true.
Oh, it has been modified? There are amendments?
Just the part about carrying written permission of the landowner on your person
yeah, we did that for
was
Fields
adopted
Lane.
in 2012.
Okay, it said amendments noted where applicable, and I didn't notice. Okay, so that's the A, capital A, amended 32313?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so the bottom line, though, is that the loud and unnecessary noise has, I recall when we had an issue with generators, remember it was a few years ago, that we're looking into the decibel levels of generators and how to modify those, et
The town
cetera?
has a noise ordinance.
Correct.
Separate and apart from this.
Okay, is that noise ordinance that's separate and apart from this applicable to create loud or unnecessary noise? Or
I
is
would
it,
think that would be the standard.
okay, but do we know for sure that's the standard? Or would it, or maybe it be amended to say, create loud or unnecessary noise as defined in our noise part? Yeah, maybe that might be something to look at, because right now, it might be subjective. Well, it looks subjective right now, create loud or unnecessary noise. Loud and unnecessary noise to one person may not be the same to another. So that subjectivity, maybe we could look into and tie it into what we otherwise think is, what loud noises that we defined under noise. So that would be one thing. On the other hand, to what you said, Mike, is on private property within 100 feet, I think what was being suggested right now by Tony is that there would be certain uses permitted within 100 feet, but it wouldn't be a use of just driving up and down, just having recreational use of the vehicle. So I think that if you wanted to fix your fence, that would be covered by the amendment that's being proposed, because it would be, well, Tony has it, but it would be, you're working within that 100 feet. So I think you'd be covered by that.
I didn't see the proposed amendment, so.
Okay.
For the maintenance of the property.
For the maintenance, so that would cover you. So in other words, you could come up with your four-wheel vehicle or whatever, right to the fence, and then fix it. So you wouldn't have to, walk the fencing materials 101 feet. So I think that covers it, what's being suggested right now. I think really what it comes down to is, that is trying to be remedied. But it still wouldn't permit within 100 feet of a property owned by another, just pure recreational use. Now, whoever is subjectively deciding who that pure recreational use is
Well,
what the issue is.
That's the point I was trying to
Right.
make when Mr. Santucci was standing at the podium, is that if you have an ATV or a off-road vehicle and you ride it up and down your driveway, and your driveway is within 100 feet of another person's property, you're technically in violation.
You
That's my only
absolutely
point.
are. And even with the modification, unless you're
Unless you're using
plowing
it to
snow,
maintain your driveway.
landscaping, maintaining the driveway, fixing the fence, then you're in violation. To the extent that it has been enforced or what have you, that I can't speak to, but I can see what the amendment would do. But if we're gonna start amending this, maybe we really take a hard look at every piece of it.
Okay, and that's what we'll do. I'll go back now. Again, I was trying to get a quick fix because someone had made a recommendation and it made sense, based on, there happened to be a neighbor on this particular property that made the request to the town. And what I'll do is I'll go out now and research this further, look at it at the hours about, again, with snowmobiles and things like that, people go out, and I'm not supposed to drive on the streets, but I know that they do, or on their yards. So let's look a bit further. Probably be about, I won't be ready for the next meeting, but probably the meeting after, and, put this in the hopper and start working on it.
Mr. Santucci?
May I add one statement? There's absolutely no usage for a snowmobile, a motorcycle, a mini bike, trail bikes, motorbikes, all-terrain vehicles, maybe. Motorized two- or three-wheel vehicles, similar vehicles. Most of these things are not to fix your fence. It's not to bring your tools. They do have utility truck vehicles. I don't think that's an all-terrain vehicle. But everything listed, most of the items listed on there could not be to fix your fence and would not be in the intention of what you guys are saying. You wouldn't have a motorcycle bring your tools to the property line to fix the fence.
Oh, I can imagine that you could have, in my mind, I know that there's I've seen the four-wheel vehicles that have a little flatbed behind it, because I could see that. And I don't know whether you'd use that recreationally, though. I mean, would I be driving around with a four-wheel vehicle with a flatbed? But I could see that. Yeah, true. I can't see a motorcycle going back and down. Unless you have one of those side passenger seats, but no. I think really what it's about is I've seen people use all-terrain vehicles with a little plow in the front to do their to do their snowplow. I actually had neighbors do my driveway with that.
I don't think what you just mentioned, that four-wheel vehicle with the dump body in the back, would be a recreational vehicle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And if you want to restrict it to that one type of vehicle, maybe, possibly, but motorcycles, mini bikes, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think the code provision itself, as it stands, is drawn for a lot of other instances other than the 100 feet exception that is being discussed this evening. So the fact that, you know, not a lot of vehicles, recreational vehicles, will fit in the definition of that which could be used as a vehicle, landscaping, et cetera, doesn't prevent the rest of the other vehicles being mentioned.
Can I make a suggestion? This code has stood since 1988. It's copied by many municipalities. If you want to modify the code, why don't you introduce a new code, a new law completely, that would allow a four-wheel vehicle with a flatbed to be brought up to the property line. It would be a maintenance vehicle. A little Jeep, perhaps.
Yeah, I think
but
what
not anything that's on this paper.
I think what Tony was saying was basically that. We're putting it in the hopper, and then we're looking at it, and then making discussions as far as these code provisions.
Leave this law alone. You're in a litigation with this law. Leave it alone. Add a new law, if you like, for just a four-wheel flatbed truck.
Okay, thank you.
That's my comment. Thank you.
Well, I think with the law, it's just defining what a recreational motor vehicle is, and that's where it includes snowmobiles, motorcycles, mini bikes, et cetera, just as a point of clarification.
All right, clearly it says all-terrain vehicle, that's an ATV. An ATV can be a three-wheeled, four-wheeled, it doesn't have to have a flatbed. A UTV could have a flatbed, could have a dumping flatbed. We're getting far, far too technical here. The fact of the matter is the ATV, otherwise known as quad or three-wheeler, trike, whatever you want to call it, has a tow hitch on the back, and it shouldn't be restricted to having a flatbed on the vehicle. I can tow a trailer behind my quad, the same one that I use for hunting, the same one that I use for recreational use, the same one that I use for fixing the fence. It should be eliminated. Much the same as the hours of service should be eliminated. Whether you'd be subject to a fine because you don't fall within the hours of restriction. As I said, there's many properties, and mine included, that I should be able to use my snowmobile or my quad 24 hours a day should I deem fit. If it's not above a certain noise level, it doesn't bother anyone, there's absolutely no reason why any person in this town shouldn't be able to use their equipment 24 hours a day.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna put this on the agenda again for next week. Not next week, 2 weeks. Next
2 weeks. 8.
No, 26?
22nd?
22nd?
Maybe we have someone else that wants to speak.
Okay.
Yes. So I have a quick question. If it states on your website if it's registered, you can use it on the road. How can it be determined you can't use it in your driveway if it's allowed on a public road? I mean, I've got a bunch of friends that have them, even on North Brewster, small chunks of property. The decibel level is well within the limits. If you can legally use it in New York, if it's registered and you're licensed, how can they be stopped anywhere else on your own property? Because, I mean, to make somebody...
That's the whole point of the whole 100-foot rule that Will Stevens was trying to explain and get to.
Yeah, I mean, but
That's
again,
the
it's back
crux
to
of the
wording, if
matter,
it's
that
just
it's
on the
legal,
road.
but yet because of this 100-foot rule,
Yeah,
you're
but
technically in violation, and that's what we're trying to correct.
Yeah,
I think the fundamental question is, how can we regulate the use of a vehicle which is licensed and condoned for use everywhere else in New York State, including on public roads? Is that phrasing it? So how is it that we can?
He makes a very good point.
Okay, so how is
There
it
are
that?
many people that have ATVs that are licensed, and they can drive them essentially anywhere, but this code says you can't drive them with 100 feet of another person's property.
Yeah, because, I mean, it goes right back into even like me. I have a four-wheel drive tractor on a small piece of property. now I can't use my own tractor somewhere else? I mean, what deems an all-terrain vehicle? If it's four-wheel drive, I mean, they're gonna give me a ticket for using my own tractor? I don't really understand. And then I'm only stuck on my driveway?
The gentleman that made the request to put this on the agenda is the very reason it's being discussed. There are problems with the law, and they're gonna have to be reviewed, and it's gonna be done.
And you raise a good point.
Anyone else on the subject matter? Okay, next time it's gonna come on.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Santucci. I just want to say I think it's pretty ironic that Mr. Skolasky is actually doing this, because I have videos of his son on an ATV tearing up the side of my property, throwing dirt over my wall, terrorizing my dogs. And at this time, I'd like to be able to bring that next month, if that's okay, so I can show you
Bring what?
exactly
Bring what, ma'am?
But she has the
the
recording.
videos
Okay.
of Mr. Skolasky's son on his ATV. So I'd like to be able to set that up next month.
The issue, that is not the issue here. The issue that we're
But
speaking
when you
of
say
now.
ATV, ATVs are very loud and very destructive.
That's why we're reviewing this.
Okay, so I would
The
just like to
person
be
that
able to
brought
bring
this
that
up,
if I
he
can,
brought
to
it
show
up
you
about
what Mr.
snow plowing
Skolasky's son
and
has
it makes
done
a
to
point.
us. Can I bring that?
If you can set it up, then you can set up beforehand, sure.
Will,
Okay.
can we ask counsel? I'm really not.
It's really up to the board. It's
Oh,
not,
okay.
I mean, if she has something that she has, it's a work
Okay.
session.
I
If
think
you're
you should bring
allowing-
it, okay?
If you're allowing public comment in a work session, there's, you know, to the
Okay.
extent that we can accommodate, then we can accommodate.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
We have the projector here, and you hook it up?
He'll figure it out.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else on the subject matter? Okay, now, it won't be until 3:22 on that, when you do that, ma'am?
Okay.
3:22?
Oh, I'll be watching it.
Okay.
Look at the computer.
Okay, we're gonna now make a motion to go into regular meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Waive the reading of the correspondence, approval of the voucher list, $2,696,965.70. So moved.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Setting the meeting dates and public hearings, all meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 PM unless otherwise noted. Thursday, March 8th, 2018, Thursday, March 22nd, 2018. So moved.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfers you have in front of you, we'll waive the reading of those. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, it's a resolution to establish a bond for McDonald's, 1618-1624 Route 22, tax map number 46.-2-39. Resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted to the town clerk. The project name is McDonald's, the bond amount, landscape improvements, $5,400, landscape and bond, $1,080. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a motion to adopt the town vehicle policy. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Is the discussion over on that, the vehicle use policy?
You-
I didn't get a notice of the work session.
It's, okay, so I think what we're doing right now, I don't think there would be discussion regarding, it's not a discussion for the public. You still have the right for public comment after the meeting. But that had been, we did have.
At least 2 work sessions.
Yeah, I think it was 2 work
minimum.
sessions on that.
Wasn't it just at the last meeting?
I'd have to look.
We had a meeting, I think we had a work session before that as well.
Yeah, we've been discussing it because it was put off from the organizational.
Yeah, I think it was the last 2 meetings.
Yeah, we had discussion last week.
It
We
has,
did
it has
some,
a lot of legal discrepancies in it, and I think they should be reviewed before you vote on it. There's union issues that weren't properly, resolved.
Would you put your information in writing to this board then? We'll put it off till the next meeting?
Sorry?
Put your comments in writing to the board with the discrepancies that you identified, and we'll put it off till the next meeting. We've already had the work session on this. No, it's all made out to the public. So I'm gonna make a motion to table this again, because I'd like to get this policy in effect and get it working. We'll accept your comments in writing as soon as possible and have it on the next agenda.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did we vote to accept it? And-
No, we voted to
No,
table
we're
it.
tabling it for
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Mr. Bruin's gonna make comments in writing to the town board with whatever legal issues he has on it, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Okay. So now number 7, we'll have to, this was deferred from the organizational as well, which is that, so we're gonna have to put that off till the next meeting as well. So I'll make a motion to defer that until the next meeting as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt the changes to the 2018 fee schedule. An issue came up, it's about what used to be junkyard fee. Speaking with some representatives, it's being changed to junkyard license application fee with an asterisk. The asterisk is that it's plus 2% per month per late fee, and no additional charge if the license is granted. Right now, when they make an application, it's $2,500. And one would think that's the actual license itself, but that's only the application fee. And if the application is approved, there's no charge actually for the license itself. But if they're not granted the license, the application fee, remains. Just wanted to clarify that. A lot of people thought when they paid the $2,500 that that was the actual license itself, and it was not. It's only an application fee. That's what we're clarifying on that.
Okay.
Discussion.
Second. Discussion.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 9, motion to approve the supervisor signing purchase agreement with Musco Sports Lighting LLC to install lights at the 2 ball fields at Scalpino Park. As you know, maybe about a month ago, I came to the board and asked that we use some additional recreation fees to the tune of about $100,000 to install the lights. It's gonna be around, I don't know the exact number now. I think it was 350, just around 350. We had 250 from a grant, and we're gonna take 100,000 from rec fees. You approved that, so basically now I'm gonna be, did we have to do that, Will? Was I given the permission then, or was that just for the money? This is just sign the contract. You approved the money, now you're approving me to sign the contract. On a motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
We went out for bid on this with other lighting,
No, we went to a state contract.
okay,
They're state approved.
okay. So that would have given us the discounts that we would have or would have received if we had gone out for bid on that.
Supposedly, yes.
I think it's actually below the threshold amount for public bidding, but our local rules for acquisition do require that we seek certain proposals, and but if there is a state contract for the particular, or state or county contract for the particular item, then we can go to the state or county vendor, approved vendor, without having to go through the whole open bidding process.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Number 10 is a resolution, Guardian Veterinarian Specialist Bond Establishment. Resolved that the bond amount is hereby established for the project set forth below. Guardian Veterinarian Specialist, bond amount for paving, resurfacing, striping, $19,400. Be further resolved that no certificate of occupancy shall be issued for the subject premises until the foregoing performance bond is filed with the town clerk. And be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the applicant, planning board secretary, and building inspector forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 11, it's a resolution, a donation of land at 147 Pump House Road. Now therefore be resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to continue the due diligence review of the premises known as tax map 45-82-1, 1-3 located at 147 Pump House Road, and upon completion of such due diligence, accept a deed of conveyance from the current owners of the subject premises, which deed of conveyance shall be in form and substance approved by the town attorney, and be free and clear of liens of significant encumbrances, and be further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to pay any and all unpaid county due taxes due and owing the subject premises for the 2018 tax year, and to pay any and all unpaid school taxes for 2017-18 tax year, and be further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute and deliver any and all ancillary documents necessary to record the title of the subject premises in the town of Southeast, to pay any all fee or charges relating to such recording. Now, okay, so move for discussion?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, this is up at Pump House. We have the ball field up there, and we got the tennis courts. We have Castle Park to the right. We have a smaller park to the left. And when we were up there over the summer, I said, when we're going to get this new equipment, which I think Mr. Lepper will be providing to town, that, we bring, kind of closer together instead of spread out. And Levon told me, he says, well, this isn't our land. I said, you got no way. I mean, it was just, I just could not believe we didn't own the land. So the bottom line was, looked into it, I came back, went to Lori's office, and sure enough, a gentleman who's moved to Florida, used to be a resident here of the town for many, many years, has owned the land for well over 50 years. I have no idea what he would have done with it. It's about 50 feet wide, maybe, by maybe 150 or 100 feet long. And couldn't believe that someone else owned it. But at any rate, I contacted him and asked him if he'd be willing to donate to the town, and he did not hesitate. He said, sure. So he's donating to the town. We're gonna, if you approve it this evening, we'll file the documentation tomorrow, and I'll recognize him in a resolution proclamation, in a few weeks after I get all the information. He's owned it since he was, I believe he said he owned it since he was 12 years old. How, I have no idea, but someone gave it to him, and he's pretty old right now. He's a little older than I am. That's pretty old. Okay.
Who owns the property beyond him?
We do, or we will soon.
Okay.
That's one of the donations from Barrett Hill, was one of the
That will
donations.
be coming, and that surrounds
That's-
his property?
Well, that's, yes. Yeah, behind his property and our property, which is like that. He owns a small stretch in between, and then behind that, that's gonna be donated to the town as well.
Thank
So it'll make it a lot more easier for the park. And all these years, when the kids were walking back and forth, believe it or not, he was subject to liability, because if they tripped and fall, it would have been his problem, and it's a good thing. Okay.
I just, when you continue the due diligence review of the premises, is that going to include, what else are you doing for due diligence? Checking to see whether anything was dumped on it? What else are you doing?
There's really not that much land there. It's very, it's very obvious that there's nothing ever been dumped on it, because it's really between our two parks. It's a sliver of land that this man was gifted back in 1951. And he's paid taxes on this for all these years, and he lives in Georgia. He's willing to give it to us. And the value, the assessed value of the property is $17,400. Presumably, by gifting it to the town, he would be able to get some sort of a tax
Okay,
deduction.
I just was wondering when you said to continue the due diligence review.
Just I haven't gotten the final title report yet.
Got it, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And supervisor report, again, we're only into month number 2, and at this point in time, there's no change, basically.
I'm sorry?
No change.
Okay.
Too early in the year. Got to give it some time. Public comment.
Dennis Santucci, 5 Shady Lane. 2 weeks ago, I came before the board and I asked for help. I asked for help on a Chapter 69 violation that's alleged by the building inspector on my property at 11 Knollwood, at 5 Shady Lane. My property happens to be up there on the screen. The alleged violation is where that row of evergreens are on the front of the property. The building inspector back in 2014 said I manipulated the grade there without, in violation of Chapter 69. Since 2014 till this date, we've had engineering, we've had surveying, we've had planning board meetings, we've had zoning board meetings, we've been through the ringer. We've asked this town board to help us numerous occasions in the last 4 or 5 years. Basically, the building inspector directed us to the planning board and said to the planning board, is Mr. Santucci in violation, in a Chapter 69 violation for grading within the first 10 feet of the property line? We had a meeting at the planning board. The planning board voted, and it was a 3-3 tie vote, which basically said Mr. Santucci may be, Mr. Santucci may not be in violation of Chapter 69 for grading of the first 10 feet of the property line. The building inspector asked the planning board a week later again, will you revote? The planning board said, no, we will not revote. If you think you have a violation against Mr. Santucci, take him to court. Okay, I got a letter from the building department back in October 16, 2015. It said that I'm in violation and if failure to bring my property into compliance within 60 days, a formal enforcement action will result as a result of that violation. It's been since October 15, it's been 2.5 years. Either the town has to decide if I am in violation of Chapter 69, take me in front of a judge so we can resolve the situation. If I am not in violation of Chapter 69, which we have proven many, many different ways that we are not, with engineering, surveying, attorneys, whatever, drop the situation and give my property free and clear title once again. I've had my property under municipal grind, under a violation. I cannot refinance, I cannot put the property for sale, and a lot of this has to do with riding within 100 feet of the property line, unequal enforcement, all kinds of things that I'm not going to get into. There is at this point a federal litigation. Tony Hayes named on that litigation. Will Stevens is named on that litigation amongst the town of Southeast. So can the town board please do some action and either get me in front of a judge or drop the violations so I can get free and clear title of my property. Thank you.
Can I just respond really quickly?
I prefer if you didn't, sir.
Okay, so you're just making a statement for the positive? Okay. No, my question to you, Mr. Santucci, is, and I'm not clear on this, did you not file an application for a special permit to allow for the filling and grading of that area?
I'm not going to get into details.
No.
We did file a special application,
And then you
it was
withdrew it?
withdrawn.
Okay.
And
That's all I wanted
then
to know.
the planning board voted, and it was a tie vote, which I believe is
If you
considered a
withdrew the
non-action.
application, Mr. Santucci, what were they voting on? If you
Building
withdrew your
inspector
application?
sent me to the planning board to see if I needed to get a special permit for a Chapter 69 violation. The planning board voted, said I did not. And then the building inspector requested it again. Planning board, there's a letter saying, no, we're not going to vote on it again. So therefore, either, Mr. Building Inspector, take Santucci to court or drop the violation. That's it. It's that simple. And meanwhile, my property has been, it's a municipal taking at this point. It's been 4 years with a violation. I cannot refinance. I can't market the property. Meanwhile, there's a guy riding around with the motorcycle right up to the property line, and you guys are entertaining the 100-foot law and the motocross when there's a federal litigation going? That's crazy, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Town board?
Let's everyone be careful tonight on the roads. I heard it might be icy.
I had just one question. Do we, maybe I should ask Levon, do we know when Peaceable Hill might be coming, the well might be coming online? I'm only asking because I went to the village board meeting last night, and one of the questions that they had for the village was whether they should start looking at water rates, or because they're going to be losing a lot of customers on Peaceable Hill. So-
Well, who are they looking for the water rates, from us or from their
No,
own,
just
their
to-
own people?
they want to know if they should start doing a study of what they're going to need to finance.
should, yes.
Yeah, I know, Do we know
You
when?
know what, I want to say publicly, because right now, I've been sending you pictures of the performance thus far.
Right.
The tank is basically enclosed. Again, if the weather picks up, I would say by September, but don't hold me to it, because I'm telling you, everything in government takes way too long.
Good, but it's,
But I would say between September and November, they should be online.
so it would be in our best interest to start doing
Without
stuff.
a doubt. I would have started long before now.
When did they set their rates by? Do you know? Did
I
they say
don't
last
know.
night?
Well, their
No,
next budget's due, I think, June 30th or
Yeah.
July 1st, somewhere in there.
No, I think the municipal, I believe village budgets go April 1st
April?
to March 30th, I think.
Okay, good, thank you.
If
Yeah.
I was them, for their next budget, if it's
They-
April 1st, I'd get working on it now.
The way they were talking, they were thinking it wasn't gonna happen for another couple of years. so-
No,
Okay, good.
no, we've already waited those years.
Thank
We're
you.
at the point now where it's getting real close.
I think maybe, Tony, if you could communicate, since apparently they didn't know. Usually Christine Pacini's here, so,
Well, she hasn't been for a long time.
yeah, but I mean, maybe let them know, so we wouldn't want the village, surprise, surprise, but I think in any event, they should be having some studies done anyway.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. Or they say in French, a fait accompli.
Okay, so tomorrow, I'll make contact tomorrow, try to get more of a concrete date, because as we go closer to online, we're gonna have Peaceful Hill in here to make them aware of when that's gonna actually take place. But as far as the village is concerned, I would start doing it long before now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the town board? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we close tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming. Drive safely.
Taking that.